I'd like to call to order the December 17th, 2018 meeting of the Highland Park Board of Education. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the Highland Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting, setting forth the time, date, and location to be submitted for publication to the Home News Tribune and Star Ledger and posted on the board's website at least 48 hours in advance of this meeting. Members of the public who wish to address the board will be given the opportunity to do so before the board adjourns for the evening. Linda, can we please have a roll call?
Ms. Byer?
Here.
Ms. Cimarusti?
Here.
Ms. Coleman? Ms. Gowan?
Here.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Mr. Magaziner?
Here.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola?
Here.
Ms. Pietrobono?
Here.
Mr. Reslevich?
Be it resolved, pursuant to the Sunshine Act, NJSA 10-4-12 and 13, the Highland Park Board of Education will now meet in closed session to discuss HIB reports and discipline. These exemptions are permitted to be discussed in closed session in accordance with NJSA 10-4-13. Information regarding the board's closed session discussion will be disclosed to the public as soon as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Can I please get a motion to convene to closed session?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to reconvene to public session?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Linda, are there any other communications other than what's on the agenda?
Well, there are none on the agenda, and that's it.
And, okay, next on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the public workshop and executive session meetings on November 12th, 2018, and the regular public and executive session meetings from November 19th, 2018. Anybody have any questions or concerns about those? I'm sorry, can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Is there any questions or concerns? Discussion? Anything? No? Okay, seeing none, Linda, could we please have a roll call?
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Ms. Cimarusti?
Yes?
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Sorry, Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
You were waiting, weren't you? Yeah, sorry about that. Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola?
Yes.
Ms. Pietrobono?
Yes.
Mr. Reslevich?
Yes.
Okay, so that brings us to the student representative report. Hello, students.
Hi. Okay, so for Irving, this Wednesday evening, Irving will be hosting the first Winter Family Craft Evening. Irving families are welcome to join for crafts, the story of snowmen at night, the movie Frosty the Snowman, cookies, and hot chocolate.
I want to go. Can other people go?
And then we'll have roughly
Crafts and
100 students. Oh, sorry.
You're throwing them off the skate now. We're still joking around. We done it.
Sorry.
Sorry.
We got all excited crafts. And
I'll wait.
is there going to be cocoa?
We're the worst.
We're the best.
Okay, yeah, and then we'll have roughly 100 students signed up and hope to see you there. So I guess it's open. And our next free family evening will be in the spring. Irving looks forward to our winter concerts and parties this week. The students have been working really hard with Ms. Radke, sorry, to prepare. And we're excited for the first day of winter and to wear our pajamas to school as well. All of us at Irving would like to wish Dr. Taylor and the entire board a joyous and blessed holiday season. And then the Bardo Student Council Wrap It Up gift event was today, and the award ceremony will be held on Wednesday. And Bardo's winter concerts are coming up this Thursday and Friday.
There's not much news for the high school since last week, but students had class meetings on Friday. Mr. Lassiter is also working on a student congress working with Student Congress to make an advisory board for the high school called Student Senate. Friday is a half day followed by winter break. And NHS is holding a pastry making event for the holidays, which anyone can come and buy a pastry.
Nice.
I had news from the middle school. I don't know if you all heard. It just happened tonight. Their first win, girls middle school basketball, 47-25 against Kanakamak. I think it's Edison.
All right, now
Yeah, it's not Edison. Okay, sorry about that. It was Kanakamak School. I'm not sure, but yeah, that was huge. So
And hard to pronounce.
Very
Know
nice.
anybody on that team?
I do.
And as for the Wi-Fi topic, I don't know if there's a specific agenda item, or should we address it here, or?
I think it would be best addressed in old business if the board president is okay with
Sure,
that.
I mean, we're going to talk, I think there was a little discussion about technology somewhere else as well, right?
Yeah, you could also bring it up at the tail end of my presentation about technology access. Did you have a chance? I was hoping that if anybody had questions about the diagram that I sent, I would have received an email. Did you?
I'm sorry. So I sort of like, I'm
Well,
not.
hold that thought. We'll get to it when I do my presentation. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, so we will move on to your presentation. Speaking of your presentation.
So tonight we were supposed to have a high school student spotlighted, but he is actually on the first day of a new job right now. So unfortunately he can't make it tonight, but we have invited him to join us in January. So January 28th we'll probably have either 2 spotlights, or I'll decide to move one to February. So instead we're going to move straight to Ms. McNally's presentation. I'm going to swing around to the projector and turn it on. I'll just ask Ann and Darcy to probably sit on the benches so you don't get melted by the laser. I've asked Megan to come out since she is now in her 4th or 5th month as the permanent principal. Maybe it's more than that.
I think I've lost count, honestly.
So it's about time that she share a state of the state for Irving and talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that she's already brought to the program. So Ms. McNally, give the projector like 30 more seconds or so
You got it.
to warm up. Here it comes. Hang on.
I'll stay. I don't know what it is.
You're on. There you go.
There it is. All right. I'll start. First, thank you for having me. I'm very excited because the day-to-day, that's why when you asked me how long I've been there for, I had to actually think about it because every day is a new day. We just keep going, and we have so much going on at Irving all the time, and I'm actually very excited to be here and share it with you. And if you'd like to come to Craft Night on Wednesday, please do. We're very excited. Yeah. All right, so the biggest piece of Irving that I think all of you know when you walk into Irving, it's warm. The sense of community there is very important to all of us, the teachers, myself, the students, and it's important that we know each other and we're able to put a face to a name. So when you first walk into Irving, this has been a wall of progress, I must say. We started this probably almost a year ago, January, and we've been growing and adding to it, and the entire staff of the building has created a frame, has a picture, and it's nice when families come in because they're able to see the staff and they're able to, again, make that connection to who we are at Irving. Another piece of what we do is with the staff in building that sense of community. It's important that we all realize what piece of the puzzle we bring to the school as a whole. And we spend a lot of time talking about not just what intrinsically motivates us as a faculty and staff, but really what brings us together and what piece of the puzzle we're able to offer to the school. Examples of that could be creative, it could be people that are more extroverted or introverted, and really what we're able to offer one another. Another piece of what we do, we have Irving Rock Stars every single month. Again, these are members of our faculty and staff that go above and beyond, and they nominate one another. So they're able to fill out a Google form, and I randomly select a couple each month, and the accolades are on the board for the entire month. So that's something everybody seems to look forward to. But again, it's that piece of community that we have first built with our faculty and staff, and then it goes out to the students as well. Right now, our current enrollment as of today, it actually changed today. We received a few more. So 313, pre-K is pretty much standing steady as to where we were last year. Even the ECPA report last year, I think we were at 62. So we're really in the same spot we were last year. And that encompasses all of our preschoolers. It's not just our special education students, but it's a mix of the special education students with our regular ed students as well. Kindergarten, 116, and first grade, obviously, 124. But what's interesting is we're receiving transfers quite often. We have 21 as of today, but 9 have transferred out as of today. And we also expect our enrollment to probably increase a little bit come January. It generally does. We are seeing a huge growth in our ESL population. Right, I mean, you can see just by the totals how many we have. So it's growing exponentially. And actually, 3 of our new enrollments in the last month were ESL students. Our school-wide theme is kindness for the year. And that little quote on the side, be the reason someone smiles today, that really takes us through the crux of what we are doing throughout the school year. It's really that whole notion of how we can be kind to each other, how we can treat people, our peers, and how we can all get along. And in our morning announcements each day, that is reminded to the students, and it actually goes through our whole school meetings, our morning meetings. It's all over the school, on all of the doors, and the kids really, I had one little boy actually say that to me today. I was running around, something had happened in the building, and he said, "Remember, you need to smile today." I said, "You got it, you got it." So again, we have the whole school-wide theme of kindness, and if you've been at Irving, you walk in and we have a kindness tree, which I'll show you in a moment. It's right in the main entrance. Mr. Marco erected it. It looks beautiful. And what we do with that, each month we have different shapes. And on those shapes are acts of kindness that the teachers and or the paraprofessionals or any of our staff gives to the students. It could be for doing something kind or nice to their peers, etc. And with those pieces, they're hung on the tree. And the kids are also mentioned at our whole school meeting that we have every single month. They're able to stand, we're able to clap for them, and again, they're able to look at the tree. And we have pieces of the tree from September, October, November, and December's are starting to get hung now. So, our whole school monthly meeting themes, they're all based around the theme of kindness and our curriculum focus for the month. For instance, the month of November, we focused on friendship and how we can care for others to kind of go along with Thanksgiving. I talked about the next one. We have a chain of kindness that hangs. With that, each family received a slip of paper in their welcome letters from me over the summer, and they were asked to, first we had sent a story home and asked that the parents talk about what it means to be kind to others, how we can be a good friend, and what the kids did on each link of their chain was to respond to a sentence starter that was on there. I can be kind in school by, I can be a good friend by, and it was again just that sense of community. The chain of kindness, it has grown and it's around our school as well. Our Rockstar staff I mentioned already, and our morning announcements. For the first half of the school year, I generally do them. Dr. Taylor's also done them. Apparently the kids love when he does them. So, but for the second half of the year, the first graders will be doing our morning announcements. And part of the announcements is really getting the kids comfortable with speaking. They're also able to add a fun adjective at the end of their morning announcements. And again, they close it with our school-wide theme of Be the Reason Someone Smiles Today. There's the tray. It looks like there's a glare on it. But again, it's all those are the leaves of the tray. And we also have How to Be Kind. This particular board focuses on whatever the guidance counselor is going over with the children for the month. So for the last month, it was to give personal space, and they read a story about how, you know, we need to give each other personal space and how we can talk to our friends and be kind. A couple of things that were addressed this school year since I've started. I'll go into that a little bit with you. The code of conduct, I mean, that was an entire group effort, obviously. So that has been put to use a few times, but I must report so far, so good with the code of conduct. I'm finding that it's reflective in what we do from day to day at Irving, and it's also reflective of the age categories as well. Unstructured play. I think this has to be my favorite one, I will be honest. We are offering the children 30 minutes of unstructured play every single day. It's built into their schedules. When I did the scheduling, it kind of butts up to an hour-and-a-half block, whether that be math or the ELA block, and the kids just love it. The teachers love it, but that unstructured aspect, we're working with the staff to really understand the difference between facilitated play and unstructured play and what the difference is. So we are offering a workshop series, which I will get into with you in a little while. Lunch and recess switches. In order for the kids to really get to know other kids in their grade, because we have 6 classes for kindergarten and first grade, they will be switching lunch and recesses for the month. I think it's starting in February. So the classes, we have an A-B schedule, and the classes will be switching so they can have lunch and recess with their peers. And again, that is just a strategy for making new friends, but it also helps with the playground and behavior. We have a new traffic pattern and a new drop-off time. We've extended the drop-off time at Irving from 8 to 8:10 to allow for staffing, but it's also for the safety of all of the children, just to make sure that we have enough supervision. And so far, that has worked beautifully. We also have para meetings this year. And what that is, I meet with all of the paraprofessionals in the building, because I almost have as many as teachers. And it's important to me that it's that sense of community again. I want them to feel like they're part of the building as much as the teachers are. They have PLC time and common planning time and faculty meetings. The paras do not. So those meetings offer an opportunity for me to kind of catch up with them and them to catch up with me, and we go over safety and whatever other things need to be on the agenda for that day. All right, so as part of our strategic plan, goal 2, our PLCs this year are really focused on culturally responsive teaching. And these are a couple snapshots of what we're doing during our PLC time. Our staff was grouped they took a personality test. It was an animal personality test, actually. And I purposefully mixed them all up to be with people that weren't like them on purpose. So some of what's coming out of PLCs right now, it really has to do with culturally competent teaching, and really how we can kind of work together to understand each other and culture and how we're infusing that into daily teaching. So the final goal of this will be their presentations, and each of the groups focused on a different area of culturally competent teaching. Programs that we currently have that we are still using and love. The responsive classroom model in our whole school meeting. So out of our responsive classroom, that's that community-based building community within the classroom. It's that common language within our school. Our readers and writers workshop models are still going strong. Actually, the teachers have been receiving PD in that area. We had one of our teachers recently present on guided reading practices. We also have our friend Eric, who comes in quarterly to work on different facets of the Readers and Writers Workshop model, and that really is teacher-driven through what's coming out of common planning and what the needs of the teachers are. Our math workshop model is going well. The teachers are attending Conquer Math with Dr. Nikosia, and I had the pleasure of being able to go last week, which was fantastic, because you really can see how much goes into children using manipulatives and learning through hands-on experiences, and really how you can scaffold questioning and how you can reach learners at any level. It's wonderful, and the teachers have responded to it so well. So thank you for allowing everybody to go. Our Rising Stars Intervention Program is still in full effect. This is for reading, writing, and math. And the teachers, again, are receiving the ongoing support and workshop guidance as needed. One of my favorites, outside of the community piece, are all of our social emotional learning opportunities that we have at Irving. As you can see, our guidance counselor in that picture was providing a lesson to the students on their feelings and how to kind of control your feelings, but how to understand how people are feeling. So she does monthly lessons with each class. Our whole school meetings provide an opportunity for the students to really take part, to have a voice. We do a greeting, we do a share, we have a birthday share. One of the chosen classes does an activity for the month. So it's really offering the kids an opportunity to shine. We also have reading with Zuma, everybody's favorite dog. She comes once a week. We have morning meeting and community building every day from roughly 8:45 to 9:15 or 9 to 9:30, depending on the class because of breakfast. And our counselor spends a lot of time having lunch. She orchestrates lunch bunches, I believe, every Thursday. And she has various social groups that are teacher recommended. And we also have the bunny bench outside. Our Rising Stars program, I kind of wanted to go back to this just a little bit for those of you that may not be familiar with this program. Rising Stars really is the pull-out intervention program for reading, writing, and math. And on average, the beauty of this program right now is that the students really are receiving an extra 45 minutes of support, roughly 3 times a week, and in some cases 4 times a week. Sometimes the teachers will push into the classrooms and work with all of the students. It really just depends on student need. And it's wonderful because it's actually providing a second voice to any children that might need to go through the Intervention and Referral Services Committee. And again, it's teacher discretion for continuation. It's student need. We're there to help the students. Some of the new programs for this year, obviously the Unstructured Play Initiative. I talked a little bit about this before to you. And the workshop series, the mandatory attendance, that is part of the building level 5 hours that we choose for the staff. And with this, the staff is attending 2 mandatory workshops. They're an hour long, and they're being run by the teachers that did the training over the summer. So it's turnkey. And we are also going to be instituting school-wide play days come the spring. I believe we're going to try to do them monthly. But we just wanted to get the structure and routine in the classrooms before doing something such as this. Again, reading with Zuma, she comes in once a week. The K-1 classes thoroughly enjoy seeing her. And the kids also get to read with me 3 times a year. Most recently, I went into every single one of the classrooms before Thanksgiving and shared a story and did an activity with the kids. Some of our preschoolers playing with magnetiles that they love, and that's when I went into one of the classrooms and we read Turkey Trouble, Disguising a Turkey. These are a couple of things that went on in the fall. We had our pumpkin patch. We had Ms. Zara doing her square dancing, which is always fun. And we had Ms. Vargas reading a story. And the last one is the first time Zuma came to visit, and she was very tiny. Now her feet are really good. A little pause. Our breakfast after the bell program. We roughly serve about a third of our population. And it's interesting because we serve 97 as of today, but again, that fluctuates because some students, especially the paying students, have the opportunity to choose if they're having breakfast, but it's on a steady increase. And I'm finding that parents that register, they're all signing up for breakfast after the bell. Love the program, it's wonderful. We've made it work beautifully, and the kids love having breakfast at school. And I'm also finding that it's really helping us with tardiness in the morning, because the kids they want to be in their classrooms to eat breakfast with their peers. They are not eating by themselves. So, yeah, I must say it's a wonderful program. Our continued partnerships at Irving, our Rutgers GSE, we're really enjoying having the student teachers. We have 6 of them in the building right now. We're going to miss them dearly. The Rutgers Seeing Eye Dogs, which can be seen in the picture. Dr. Taylor was actually there the day they came. So they come and they do a presentation for us twice during the school year, and the kids really, really, really love it. We will be working again with George Street in the spring. We're actually, the program that the kids are going to be working on, it's going to be unstructured play based this year, in addition to the theatrics and the music. So we're still kind of in the planning stages of how the George Street Playhouse is, how that's going to look, the internship is going to look this year. We also welcome our high school GLOW students 2 times a week. I have one working in the building right now who comes 3 days a week, 3 half days a week. And then we have the other students come, and they do various tasks around the school. They're in the classroom, they work in the office a little bit, so it's really been a great experience with them. Our new partnerships for right now, we have from the Rutgers Graduate School of Applied and Professional Psychology. We have behaviorists working with some of our teachers and paraprofessionals as part of a research study right now. So they're coming in and working in 3 different classrooms with 3 different sets of teachers and paraprofessionals. So they're coming in and observing and providing coaching. So far, I've only heard a positive response. We're only a month in. Lastly, we also have had a few of Dr. Elias's interns with us. They've been coming in to observe our responsive classroom model, and they've also been coming to our climate meetings, and I'm expecting them on Wednesday night for our Winter Family Craft Night. So on the horizon for Irving, these are a couple of the ideas that have been going through my mind, and just taking the months that I've been there and kind of swallowing and seeing what I would like to do as the principal of the building. Right now, for the springtime, I'm in the process of forming a whole school rules committee. We really want to take a look at our whole school rules and our logical consequences and make sure that they're reflecting the responsive classroom model. Again, those expectations are developed at the beginning of the school year with the teachers for the classroom, but it's important that we're continually looking at them for the building. And because we have the new code of conduct, I think it's a perfect time for us to really look at our code of conduct, look at what's being done in the classrooms and through responsive classroom, and coming up with whole school rules that are applicable at this point. Next, we're going to continue with our play-based measures going forth. The teachers are really, really interested in how we can continue to infuse unstructured play, whether that be block play, and they're very interested in taking a look at science and social studies and really how we can put a larger play-based approach to those subject areas and really get into the community. Another thing that we're doing with our first being on Wednesday are the family engagement evenings. Quarterly, we're going to be doing these. And again, it's really just getting the families into the school. And right now, as we kind of stated before, we have 100 children coming on Wednesday. And I'm assuming there will probably be more that just did not sign up yet. But it really is a huge focus of mine and the staff. We want families to feel welcome. We want them to come into the buildings, and we really want them to feel part of the Irving family. And we know that we have a lot of working families. So I think for a good majority of them, these evenings will be very beneficial. And again, it's not costing families anything either. I've been in discussion with Dr. Nicosia for next year of really focusing our media curriculum with a STEM focus. Really, in addition to book selection and the other important skills that are taught within the media time, we really have been in discussion of how we can kind of see this come to fruition. We're kind of in the beginning planning stages. And then lastly, my final thought is the teaching of language and possibly how we might be able to see that come back around to, again, to our first graders. And that's something I've been doing my own research on, the benefits and what surrounding districts are also doing. So, thank you all. We've come to the end. And if you have any questions for me,
Ms.
please
McNally, I just
ask.
want to add one thing. First of all, thank you for a very comprehensive presentation.
Oh, you're so welcome.
I've been in your school frequently. I get in there almost every other day, and I try to make it to everybody's classrooms, and I talk to them informally. And the consensus is the teachers have embraced your being there, and they really appreciate you. They really do. You're not only supporting them, but you're bringing a sense of levity that I think I'm feeling too when I walk into the building. So thank you.
Good.
Any questions for Megan? Please, Mark.
Yes.
I actually have a long set of questions, so I apologize. Not a long set, but comprehensive set. So what happened to the potential order for the play materials? We haven't seen that yet. Is that coming out of existing monies, or will something come to the committee, the finance committee?
For the supplies?
Yeah, the supplies.
That'll have to come out of the existing operational budget.
I know. Are we going to go forward with the exact with the configurations that you proposed?
Yes, I gave you the spreadsheet of the configurations.
Yes.
With it's broken down pretty comprehensively.
Yes, it is. Thank you. That was.
Oh, you're so
wonderful.
welcome. You know, I said we're going to do this right. So we would be super excited with anything.
But you are going forward with that list. And I just want to say that's...
Granted, I get the okay from the finance guy.
No. I think you get the okay from the
Or Dr. Taylor here.
superintendent. So it's coming out of current existing monies.
Yeah, it has
Great,
to.
fabulous. I just want to say for the board that if you toured the building, you'd see scant play material in many or most of the rooms. Materials which disappeared just coincidentally about 5 or 6 years ago, and just don't lend the school to any kind of play-based curriculum. So it's wonderful that you're doing that. You made me smile today with this presentation.
And I also very much enjoyed touring the building with your lovely wife.
Great.
We really had a wonderful dialogue.
Excellent.
So.
I do though want to add, I had one more question, and I wanted to add a comment about the moving forward on a more of a play-based curriculum. The ESL students that you mentioned, are they a specific set of languages, or is it one language, multiple languages? What are you seeing?
We have 11 different languages total.
Okay.
That we're seeing. So when the children are pulled out for instruction, they're mixed languages.
Okay. Okay. So my comment is about the play-based learning, play-based curriculum. So I applaud that there is now an unstructured playtime every day. It's about time. Many boards, since I've been on the board members have talked about that. And as I say, it's about time. But if you look at the state, I have a lot of notes here. If you look at the state guidelines for, in particular, kindergarten, that's the easy one to pick up, because in pre-K there's much more play, and in first grade there's perhaps not supposed to be as much play. But if you look at the kindergarten, they're talking about a model curriculum with 60 to 100 minutes of play per day, in addition to outdoor recess of 30 minutes, and it's just all integrated. And to read, this is from the state. I've passed this around to the curriculum committee numerous times. Dr. Taylor has gotten it. I think Megan, you've gotten
I've seen
copies. And you know, these are done, I think, for the most part, Rutgers professors of education put in, you know, much of the documentation on this. But if you look at the guidelines, one of the statements is, design kindergarten schedules, classroom spaces, materials, and daily plans to accommodate play, ensure that play opportunities are ongoing to support children's development, and educate all staff and families about play is essential to the kindergarten experience. And then coupled with that are statements like at least 60 minutes of play in centers, in addition to an extended outdoor play period. Choice time gives children an important opportunity to practice and cement the academic and social skills. So I want to simply encourage you, and if that takes professional development, that would be wonderful, to put professional development into integrating play. But 30 minutes simply going forward, I think, is a good start, but it's not enough.
Right, and the one thing I will say, because our math and ELA blocks are an hour and a half apiece a day, the teachers use center time for exactly that too. Yes, the children are working toward the standards that they have to for the state, but they also have choice during that time, and the teachers are finding creative ways to infuse play into that hour and a half, whether for math or ELA as well. Okay. And currently the kids do have a half-hour recess period, and I do find that on nice days especially, the teachers will take them out for a second play as well.
I also would hope that having the play materials moving.
Mark, just make sure you're using.
Yeah, having the play materials. Oh, this is difficult. Having the play materials in the rooms now, or do we know when we're ordering those materials?
I don't know. I mean, it's as soon as we get quotes. Do you have quotes yet?
I'm always the most impatient person in any room that I'm sitting in.
It's a good thing to be impatient about.
We also have to take a look at the numbers. Linda's probably is cringing right now about the unbudgeted expenses. But we have to look at how much we want to spend on this fiscal year budget.
But this is not a fortune. If one child is helped, who doesn't have to go into out of district or something. This money has paid for itself 10 times over. But anyway, I hope that with that material coming in, with blocks coming in and other play materials, as per the state guidelines, this can be more inculcated into the program and become much more a part of the program because it's just so much more beneficial for the children. So I just want to make that case. And I believe I'm probably preaching to the converted, but I want to make a strong case that we do this.
No, and I appreciate your support. I really do.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask about the curriculum. Is it creative curriculum that we're using? It is.
Yes, our pre-K classes are creative curriculum.
And kindergarten and first grade as well, or?
Kindergarten and first grade are doing the Readers and Writers Workshop and the Math Workshop model.
Okay, so their unstructured playtime is their comprehensive playtime for the day besides recess? The kindergarten and the first grade?
Yes, so they have that 30 minutes of unstructured play plus their 30 minutes of recess. And again, each of the model for Readers, Writers Workshop and Math Workshop, they have center choices.
Okay.
So the teachers are really starting to get creative. And again, that's why we're having the workshop series too. It's really kind of our teachers helping one another to kind of teach each other or give ideas and be a support system for one another. And I also find that the majority of the teachers, they co-plan. So they're really trying to come up with ideas that are cohesive for the entire grade level as well.
Right. So you're kind of facilitating more of a culture shift in the direction of play. That's what it looks like from the outside. Okay. And then I wanted to ask,
we still have standards that we have to cover.
I know. But yeah, so my other question is, because you had my kids in middle school, I was wondering, and it's so cool that you're at Irving now, like, because you saw, like what was coming from Irving and Bartle, and now you're there. So how is that affecting your experience, and what are you
I almost feel like teaching middle school, it almost seems like eons ago.
Yeah.
It really does.
Right.
And I see them and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so big. And I have a middle schooler at home too, so. But I'm saying, I feel like right now and where I'm at is where I'm supposed to, where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I look at the big picture of it and I love the early childhood piece.
It's interesting to see you go from middle
I
school
know.
is so different.
It's so different on so
Yeah.
many levels.
I sense something, though. I've gotten to know Megan as a parent as well as superintendent. I think you were so good at differentiating instruction and personalizing instruction for kids and being flexible and rolling with them. I bet that's playing now in the Irving setting, Like,
100%.
like that ease that I sensed?
Yeah, well,
That's the kind of ease I felt in her classroom.
That's what I was thinking, though, because it's not that Irving is easier. Sometimes the problems appear easier, right, because they're smaller, the children. But, like, the idea that we had, our former principal was a person from early childhood, and you were from the world of middle school, and it just seems like, philosophically, like, you get early childhood in a way that, we hadn't seen before. And so it's just interesting. It's almost like it's something that you get or you don't get. You can't teach a person to get it. So I'm just really grateful that you're there and that you get it. And looking forward to lots of good playtime.
And I thoroughly enjoy teaching your children because I had a lot of your kids.
Yes.
Just about all of your kids, actually. Just about. No, I appreciate that. And kind of back to what Dr. Taylor said, I kind of agree. My time in the classroom, it really, and especially because I've really spent a lot of time in the special education world, that flexibility piece and that personalizing of instruction, we see that at early childhood. Everything is a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Every family is a case-by-case basis. So that's a big piece of my philosophical approach to
Mine
early
too,
childhood.
so I very much appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
Awesome. Does anybody else have anything for
I just was curious
Ms.
what the buddy bench is.
Oh, the buddy bench. If you look at our playground, it's a big blue bench, and it says buddy bench on it. What it is the philosophy behind the buddy bench is really that children are all seeking each other out and helping each other. It's the whole it's a part of the anti-bullying, though we don't like to call it that in early childhood. But it's really that notion that children, if they don't have anybody to play with, kids will actually go sit on the bench. People will run over the bench. That's the notion of what the buddy bench is.
That's fantastic.
So, and we actually, each year, I know the principal before me, it's been there, and I know Bartle has one too.
Mm-hmm.
So we, at the beginning of the school year, at the whole school meeting, we bring the buddy bench in, and we go over, the importance of it and what it's there for and how it's not there for punitive purposes.
Right.
It's there for helping purposes. So, you're welcome.
Anybody else? No? All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. And I
Thank
have one
you.
more thing I just wanted to add, which is I'm so excited that you have a welcoming attitude
Yes.
towards parents in that school. I think of all of the things that you talked about, that's probably one of the things that excites me the most. And those 4 nights that you're planning to open up the school to parents are so important. If we don't get families feeling connected in those first early crucial years,
Yeah.
it only gets harder as they get older and their kids get older and they're quite frankly less cute. I mean, it's much easier when they're this cute
It's
to
also
get
a cultural thing
Right.
too, like to make sure that we're sending that message to people who come from cultures that don't automatically
Right.
inject themselves into the school. The
Right.
teacher is not the authority necessarily. It's a collaborative effort.
They're that goofy person you do crafts with
I love
at the
it.
holiday
I love
time.
it.
So,
And another piece of what we do too, especially even for something such as this, we send all of this home in various languages.
That's great.
So I know that the translator piece is huge, and I know you can scan things and translate them, but that's another piece of what I believe needs to go home to parents, because we have so many parents that simply do not speak English.
right. So,
So-
one piece I would love for you to think about adding to that is either for one of those 4 nights or potentially an additional night to be for prospective parents who have kids even littler than Irving age, to get them in, find some kind of activity to
Yeah.
do with them, to get them engaged, because
I love that.
It's-
It would be a great introduction to preschool too.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how you reach those families, I
The
don't know how you find
library.
those families.
The library.
But to get those families into Irving and let them know this is where you're going to be coming, this is where we want you to be, and we can't wait till, you're an Irving Dragon.
Right, and we also, our registration, I was actually working on the packet today with the secretaries. It's going out pretty soon. And I think a big piece of it is too getting the parents in relatively early. We've been talking about making earlier dates because we would love to even invite parents in for something such as that, in addition to the day they come to observe, because they all have friends.
Right.
And they all know people who know people.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly. If you just put that out to your current parents, you
Right.
you know, hook in a bunch of parents who've got kids who might be coming into pre-K in a year or 2 years or whatever, but it gives them an opportunity to come into the building and get the lay of the land, and for the kids to come in and know where they're going, and you know,
Right.
it just makes it feel like more part of the community. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me. And happy holidays to everybody. Really,
Same to
enjoy
you.
your time.
I'm going to send Ms. McNally home
Yes.
so she can be on the line at 8:10. Greeting and meeting. Thank you, Ms. McNally.
Thank you.
I'm going to shift gears. So I will ask that Ann and Darcy, if you want to come back to the bench, you do, or you can just turn around, whatever floats your boat. The discussion that the full board has had about technology over the last couple of years is peaking. It's accelerated in the last couple of months, and in the last week, there have been a flurry of emails and texts between me and members, particularly at the policy committee. The policy committee has taken the lead, in my view, to address the technology access gap that we know exists in the community. So I administered a survey that I would like to talk about in the next few minutes. I'm going to begin by showing you the respondency rate, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the data itself. And then I'll conclude by sharing some suggestions for consideration. And then I'm going to have Mark Krieger, who's the finance chair and also a member of the policy committee, pick it up and talk more about those suggestions. So I first need to make sure that the community watching the board meeting and the full board recognizes really the two problems that currently exist. The reality is we have a good number of kids, families, who do not have the opportunity to do the same engaging work as their peers who do have the technology that they would need to engage in some of the particularly homework assignments that we've been administering at home. And we haven't addressed that gap for years and years. And the reason why it needs to be addressed sooner than later is because as technology becomes more pervasive and more widely used in our school, so does that gap become more noticeable. I have an article I'll be distributing to the board in paper form when I sit down. You know, my own very preliminary research on the web about this issue proves that it's not just our problem. It's a problem that's nationwide. The article from the New York Times that I'll share talks about kids who are having to park themselves outside of schools where they can access Wi-Fi using their smartphones, as you can see in this picture, just so they can complete some of the homework assignments that their peers can do at home on desktops and laptops. Edutopia, the George Lucas Foundation, Education Foundation, has a whole series of articles all about this topic. And I really appreciate this particular passage from an Edutopia piece I recently read, so just give that a read real quick. So my survey that I had the Irving and Bartle kids take home with them, all paper format, nothing was electronic, and that I had the middle and high school students complete in school showed these respondency rates, which are no surprise. I mean, I do think, I'm actually relatively pleased by the 34% respondency rates. They're higher than the 20% average respondency rates people get from surveys. And obviously the fact that almost three-quarters of our students completed the surveys in the middle high school is no surprise, because they were doing it, they were completing them during the school day. And here are some of the results that we found. In total, based on the responses we received, we determined right now that 3 students total don't have any devices at all: Nooks, Kindles, smartphones, desktop computers, laptop computers. I'm going to share the raw data with the board as well. You'll see a breakdown school by school. By the way, this is one of the most comprehensive surveys I think we've administered in recent years. Every year we do ask parents, guardians to tell us if they would rather receive communiques by email versus paper, but we've never taken a deep dive into what they actually have. And as you can see, 30 students total said that they didn't have any internet access. The policy committee took the lead on this issue because we were looking at the current board homework policy and considered adding language that would help us provide more opportunities for kids who don't have any ability to complete some of the homework assignments that their peers were completing to do so. And that led some members of the policy committee to prompt me to take a much closer look at the data for just the high school. The idea being that the Irving and Barlow kids are not being assigned for the most part, and if they are, I'd be surprised. If it's happening, maybe it's happening in 5th grade, technology-based homework. There is an issue more so at the middle and high school, but to me, the high school, having been a high school principal and a high school teacher, I can speak from experience. The high school teachers rely heavily on technology, whether it's having kids write multi-page essays, use Google Classroom, do research on the internet on technology to support their work at home. So we took a much closer look at the high school data, and I must correct this information. I did not do that. The actual number of students who we determined don't have any desktop or laptop computers is actually 52, not 67. Now be mindful that we're talking about 347 responses. About 3/4 of the student body responded. 52, not 67. My mistake. Do not have desktop or laptop computers. We still haven't heard back from 100 students. Of these students who don't have any desktop or laptop computers, 28 have Kindles or Nooks. 218 of them have smartphones. When I looked more closely at the 52 students who didn't have desktops and laptops, I was able to determine the following data. I'm not going to read the slide. You can read to yourself. Now, I've gone back and forth with the members of the committee about the functionality of smartphones. I have a hunch the vast majority of the homework that we're assigning, especially at the high school level, cannot be completed if it's technology-based on a smartphone. It's almost impossible. I think the students present would tell me this too, to write an essay on an iPhone or a Droid. So the next step for the committee was to think about ways we could address this problem. The reality is we have not been able to fund our technology budget because of the fiscal constraints our district has faced. So we don't have much to go around and loan except for these 4 Chromebooks I'm listing on the screen and 3 access points that we use thanks to our service with Verizon. The access points, by the way, they're referred to as MiFis. It's a product name, would provide unlimited access to the internet using the Verizon cellular network. We have 3 of those currently that will be available for loaning out. And these are some cost ideas as to if we were to go ahead and actually buy enough equipment to provide loaners. You're talking about $280 a Chromebook and $38 per month for the service for MiFi. We've struggled for some time trying to determine how to bring the borough in to provide access, internet access, contemplated reaching out to Rutgers to see if they can expand their network into the Cedar Lane apartment area since it's so close to the Livingston campus. But we've hit dead ends in all cases. So before I have Mark take over, I'd like to throw out a couple of things that I've considered we need to do in the short term. First of all, I'd like to have a group, which I would call a district central leadership team, come together to meet on January 14th to tackle this issue. This would be a stakeholder group that would include members of the board, me, the president of the Highland Park Ed Association, Keith Presti, at least 4 teachers, Dr. DeCosia, Mr. Lassiter, principal of the high school, and potentially Ms. Hopeful if we need her input because of financial matters. I anticipate January 3rd meeting with Keith to form this group and then have our first meeting on January 14th, on which day I believe we can come up with a short-term solution, which might be perhaps what Mark will consider, will suggest. It'll something that the committee will have to take up. We have been looking as a group about, as one short-term fix, expanding the hours we have available for the kids to come to the lab after school. I threw up some ballpark cost estimates, all pending HPEA agreement, but these are all contractual rates we would pay paraprofessionals if we were to have paraprofessionals supervise the computer lab, which we have at the high school media center. I think it's the ideal place if we were to open up the lab, a lab for after school homework study time, because it's central to both middle and high school, and there are about 25 machines there. The times we would open up the lab for is something that Mark can share with the board. So Mark, at this point, do you want to take over and talk a little bit about your ideas?
Okay, so here's the thing. About 6 weeks ago, the policy committee started talking about the homework policy. This is in light of the equity issue, that we knew a large number of students did not have equipment and didn't have Wi-Fi access. The numbers that Scott put up for the high school are the numbers that we got. We have, I'll do this very briefly, and then I'll talk about some of the alternatives that the policy committee, under Ann's leadership, came up with. And actually, just to digress a minute, for the last week, there's been lots of emails and text messages running back and forth and back and forth. We've been going a little crazy with this. And I think it's because of the seriousness of the matter. One of our concerns is this doesn't just drag out, because there are students who clearly cannot do their work. Anyway, 52 students who answered out of around round numbers 350 don't have an appropriate device. They do not have a desktop. They do not have a laptop. A few of them have iPads, but an iPad without a keyboard is not as effective as it could be. But that's of the students who did answer. The 28% who didn't answer will also have a fair number of students who do not have appropriate equipment at home and/or Wi-Fi access. So, running through those numbers, I'm estimating that 80 to 85 students don't have an appropriate device at home. I'm also expecting that the vast majority of those students, in cases where they have only a smartphone or an iPad, don't really have Wi-Fi access. They're very likely to have a 4G or something, but they're not likely to have Wi-Fi access. If you run through the costs of this for the high school alone, you're looking at to buy loaner equipment, just the equipment itself, for Chromebooks and Wi-Fi access points. You're talking about $25,000 or $30,000 for the Chromebooks, a similar amount annually for the Wi-Fi access points, although we might be able to get that more cheaply. And then this doesn't take into account the middle school. So we're likely in the middle school talking about another let's say $70,000. So we're talking about $150,000, plus we need staff to make sure those machines are in good working order, manage them, manage the sign in and sign out. It's complex and it's risky, and other schools have done this in their articles on failures. So I'm very, very leery of that at the moment. That's only one of the things we talked about. Let me just briefly say what we talked about. There were suggestions that no homework be allowed to be given out that requires technology. And that just has to be unacceptable. I think to penalize the large majority of our students in the interest of equity is not the right approach. We have to do something for the students who don't have access. We talked 2 years ago about one-to-one loaners. I mean, if we can't afford loaners for the students who don't have equipment, it's absurd to talk about every student getting a loaner, and that has even bigger implications. We talked about the loaners, but those loaners are, as I just said, are very, very, very expensive. And then we talked about allowing homework to be given out that requires technology, but with hard copy being made available anonymously just on the desk to students who want to just take it for whatever reason. I don't have a computer at home. I don't feel like doing it on the computer. My computer is down. My Wi-Fi is down. I take that printed homework home. That's what's done in my grandkids' school in New York City. All the work is given out. There's middle school, work is given out, and then stuff is on the desk. I mean, I grilled my daughter about this, and I grilled my grandkids. They can take hard copies with them. And though, at our last meeting, came up with a suggestion, and then, you know, we talked about this ages ago. What you brought up was fantastic, but we kind of, at the time, poo-pooed it. Let's go on, let's do the next thing, but you came up with it, and it was great, and that is to open the school at other hours, including during the day, which I'm going to get to in a minute so that this presentation doesn't go on for an hour. So the idea here would be to open the school after hours. In principle, I feel, and I've talked to Dr. Taylor about this, after the after-school activities. So at times, so that students could do after-school activities, come back to the school, pick a time, 5 o'clock, 5:30. I'm not in the schools, I'm not running the schools, but I think a time where it's available, have somebody in the school monitoring the computer lab and having it open for 2 hours, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, possibly even Friday, so that students can get access to computers after hours. There's the issue of the students who come from Cedar Lane area and are bused. My proposal for that would be to open the computer lab in period 1 and have someone monitoring in period 1. So students who are on the buses and are going to be coming to the school early in any event, which is when the buses arrive, have the students be able to use the computer lab then, and then perhaps have it available during the day in some study hours. And that, again, I'm not an expert in that. I don't know if we can even do that, but certainly period 1 and after hours. The cost of that is very, very minimal. Scott talked to me about someone after hours a few days a week costing, for the rest of this year, under $2,000 in salary. That's what he presented. It solves the problem, which is that students can get access to a computer, be in the building, be able to use the machines, and there, I think, are sufficient machines here to cover the majority of the students. Perhaps not every student every day, but I don't know that every student every day needs to access the equipment. I just don't know. If it's also open for first period, that may, and for some study periods, that may make it available enough for all the students. I don't see the budget, maybe we budget next year, for loaners. I just don't see it. It's too much money. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wait, so this is the part that still, I'm still not wrapping my head around. If we're talking, say, 100 or even say 75 Chromebooks.
Chromebooks,
that we
right.
would need available.
Right.
That's not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No, but if you have 80 at the high school and 80 in the middle school, that's 160.
Is it 75 at each building?
Yes, yes, it is. Sorry if I wasn't clear. It's at the high school. It's about 80, 85, and in the middle school, unless we buy, no, even if we buy between the Wi-Fi and the keyboards and the machines that people don't have, it's 80 or 85 machines
Per building.
per building.
Not for the lab.
The lab doesn't have that
to
many.
have loaners.
To have loaners.
So for a lab, how
Right.
many would
We
you?
have 25. Maybe we bring carts in
Well,
for more if the students
So
come
one
and
thing I
use
should add
them.
is that I had a chance to talk to Jennifer Sevier yet today about having Nikki Faringo, who's currently paid with Title I funds to keep her room open after school twice a week for middle school students. They want to do homework.
So can I make a suggestion here? I think this stuff we have to hash out in this meeting with, I mean, I think us
This
doing
is
it at the
certainly
board
very,
table-
no, this is
Yeah,
preliminary. I'm not trying to make any decisions.
No, I
I'm trying
know,
to say how
but-
damn complicated this is.
But I think we could keep talking about
Yep.
this tonight
I
for
agree.
another
I'm
2
done.
hours, and it's not getting anywhere.
I am done.
I'm not saying it's not getting anywhere, but
Yes.
it's not going to get us anywhere. We have to have this conversation with the teachers,
Yep.
with Keith, with John, with, like everybody putting their heads together to figure this out. We are the
Correct.
furthest from the students.
Correct.
So unless we're all sitting in a room, whatever we wax prophetic about here is not going to,
I agree.
I think the frustration that a lot of us feel is we have been talking about this for a couple of years, and we thought it was under control. So that's why this massive, frantic effort now, I mean, every time this has come up in the last year or so, oh no, we've got loaners, oh no, we've got these access points, and now all of a sudden there is no access points, there are no loaners, we have 75 to 80 kids in both of our buildings that can't do their homework, like, not okay.
I want to add something to that. The committee wrote a new homework policy.
Right.
That new homework policy had homework can be given out on the computer. Any homework that's given out on the computer has to have anonymous hard copy on the teacher's desk that anybody can take home for whatever reason. And that was rejected. That was rejected by the administration. Scott went to his administrative team. That was rejected. I don't know why. I still don't know why.
So this is why I think, but
wait.
wait, hold on, but wait. I kind of want to stop this conversation at this
Yep,
point
that's
because
fine.
I think the conversation has to happen with the teachers in the room, with Keith in the room, with some of the administrators in the room.
I
So
agree.
that they can go back, bring the information to us, and we can have more of a dialogue about this. Us talking about it in isolation isn't going to get us anywhere on this particular topic.
I agree.
We have to find out more about what the teachers are seeing in their classrooms. I mean, they must be seeing the impact of this, and they must have ideas as to how we can address this.
If I could just give a really quick student standpoint
Sure.
on this issue, I would definitely agree with Mark's idea of opening a room after school for some homework or something. A lot of times when I go to do NHS tutoring at the library, I observe it's very, very packed. A lot of the computers just have students in them, and the Wi-Fi isn't super great there either.
What time of day is that?
It's after school.
In the afternoon.
Yeah, so most of the students coming to do their homework there are usually pretty cramped. There's not often a lot of tables to work at.
The weekend. What about weekends?
I haven't been there on the weekends, but I think a good solution to that would be to open a room after school, like the media center or something. It's also already open period A, or I think you meant period A.
Oh, it is period.
Yeah.
The first period.
Yeah, first period. Well, we
Yeah.
can call it period A.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, students can come in early.
They
to
can.
do their homework,
Okay.
yeah.
Can I just ask a really bizarre question? I find that for years, my kids have been coming home saying they're doing Study Island at school. We have carts full of computers. Sometimes they're damaged, sometimes they're not. But there is a budget that we've put into for technology. Why are those carts kind of sacred that we're not willing to allow those machines to go out where they're needed. I mean, I understand that teachers want to be able to use them and that we do need them for standardized testing, unfortunately, but I don't see how that takes precedence over a student who has no access.
We haven't been able to, we've only had enough in our budget to replace existing machines, so we haven't expanded the number of machines we've had in the school.
No, but what
district.
Michelle is asking, why can't some of those machines also function as loaners?
If we, well,
That
would
come back
well,
the next
'cause
morning.
we might be taking them out of commission for class use,
Yeah.
which means
They're being used
we
in
risk,
class.
one, not being able to replace those machines if they're damaged as loaners.
But that's not the real reason. The real reason is the folks who don't have machines at home don't have Wi-Fi at home. That's the real
But it would
reason.
be a
another
lot
issue.
cheaper, but it's a lot cheaper to get those things are like $30 a pop. And those
The-
are things you could potentially go to,
The-
you know, a PTO or Ed Foundation to get help
Wait,
with.
the Wi-Fi?
So yeah, the little,
No, that's 30 a month.
Yeah.
They're
30
monthly
a month.
a month.
Yeah,
That's the
you have to
problem.
pay the Wi-Fi.
This is very, very complicated. I don't want to drag it out anymore. I'm mostly just so frustrated by this and how much time we've spent. And by the way, it was Ann's suggestion, not mine. I'm just bringing it forward to open the school more. I have to say that when you evaluate all of this and go over the numbers and our budgets and whatever we could possibly do, I don't see any other way than opening the school more,
okay.
frankly.
So Scott, we have this meeting when? First week of
January
January.
14th is the
Okay.
intention.
So the job I'm going to give everybody at this table, including the students, is before then, email both Scott and myself with any and all suggestions, no matter how, or anybody at home. Hi, email us. Our email addresses are on the website. Whatever ideas you have, bring them forward, no matter how silly you think they might be. If you have any ideas of funding sources, you find a grant, you find whatever. Like, part of my frustration with we don't have the money is I don't think we ever properly assessed the extent of the problem, and we were kind of pacified that the problem was under control. And now, not only is the problem not under control, but it's way worse than we thought it was. So
In our defense, though,
we got to act.
we have been asking.
We're good. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, though?
Yeah, of course.
Just wondering where we stand now with what the actual policy is going to be, just kind of the interim directive that's been given to teachers in all the buildings.
I have
or
not
middle?
given a directive, and we have tabled the policy changes until after this committee meets.
Right. I mean, and we've got the few days before break
Yeah,
and the few
then-
days when we come back, and I'm hoping,
That's something else.
I'm
sooner
sorry.
rather than later, we'll have some suggestions.
I'm sorry, but we did talk about the paper copies of homework assignments being made available. And I understand that maybe that's not being done, but what happened to that? Because that's what we were told was happening.
Well, it's a directive that's still out there. I was going to reiterate it, and I was actually going to go one step further and have the middle school shut down its use of technology for homework at all. I can discuss this more at the committee meeting, but the leadership team did have its own say about the policy language and had concerns about it
Making
potentially
copies?
exacerbating the problem.
We're going to have to find a way to get everybody on the same page.
I agree.
So,
I guess my question is, so between now and, I know it's only maybe, 10 actual school days between now and January 14th, but until then, we acknowledge that
Yeah.
there are kids
Yep.
that are just not able to do their homework, and it's okay. That they are still, teachers are still allowed to assign
That can't be okay.
technology-based homework, and...
it's not okay, but even if we give some directive, everybody can't
maybe a directive is
flip
solution,
their, right, it can't flip their, lesson plans, it can't flip, everything on a dime.
If I could just
So
say,
then
there,
how do
oh,
we-
go ahead.
Okay, no.
I mean, there are some, it would be great if teachers could be encouraged in the obvious, easy cases to do this. For example, when teachers put PDFs of a textbook online, it would be helpful. That's not sort of a unique online experience that can't be mimicked, in a paper copy. I understand that if you're doing an interactive experience, how do you make a paper copy of that?
Well, but I think what Scott said is the directive was already put out there, and we're not going to be able to enforce it in the next 2 weeks.
Could there be any
of school.
encouragement? I mean, literally, like my kids, that's where they read one of my children reads his math textbook online. This is not like a major curriculum change, it's just getting some paper copies.
I don't think there's any harm in me sending a parting email before winter break. No directives, just pointing out how serious an issue this is. It's a high-profile issue with the board and me right now.
Right.
And giving them the plan ahead so they know this is a big deal for us. I mean, there's nothing wrong with me sending that email out.
Okay.
Right. And could I just make sure, I just would like to make sure that the borough political leadership is included in this.
Yes, please.
Great
Not
point.
Not in the internal one.
But
I
with
mean,
the
we'll have
Well-
separate conversations with them, but I disagree on having them involved in that. I don't want teachers and administrators to, that's an overlap that I don't think is appropriate. Well, I mean, Scott and I have talked to,
Without them being involved in talking about funding and talking about the big picture problem?
but that's totally, the rest of the stuff is not pertaining to them, so we'll bring
Fine.
that to them.
Let's do that quickly,
I don't-
because we
Yeah,
we have the
absolutely.
library issue, you know, do we need more space at the library, that sort of thing? And is there, I know we've brought up municipal Wi-Fi before, and it's a huge, heavy lift.
So again,
but-
we could spend all night talking about it.
Right.
Whatever suggestions everybody has, let's centralize them. Scott and I will catalog them, and Ann and I are going to be in that meeting. We'll make sure that all of those suggestions are put forward, and we'll try to come out of the room with some sort of thing that everybody can agree with.
In the meantime, though, Darcy, I'm concerned about grades.
Yeah.
Students' grades have been affected for this
Of course,
marking
Michelle, we
period.
can't go back and
No.
fix what's happened in the last 2 years right now.
No,
We're-
I understand that, but now that the problem has been seen from a distance to the degree that it is a problem, like, it's a huge problem. Many of the students didn't even take the survey. I don't know how that even happens, that we don't have students take the survey. I mean, they're in the building every day. So
Okay,
why don't we have a
Michelle,
100?
Michelle, we all understand the gravity of the problem and the issue, and everybody is going to work to resolve it as quickly as possible.
But with all due respect, I don't think that we can understand the gravity of the problem entirely if we
I
don't
think we can.
have-
I think we say we got 75% of the kids to respond, and we'll add an additional 25% on top of the numbers. I mean, we assume that a similar amount of those that weren't surveyed have the same problems, and we assume it's worse than the numbers that we actually have. No one is trying to belittle this. No one is not trying to take this seriously. No one is trying to allow this to continue any longer than it already has. I think we've talked to Scott, and I have already sat down and talked to Keith about it. Keith understands the urgency. He understands the urgency even based on his program, his music program, that a lot of these issues impact, a lot of these equity issues impact kids' ability to participate in the music program or in the theater program. So the understanding is there. What hasn't happened is getting everybody to the table to have everybody agree on the solution. So us or Scott handing down edicts isn't going to be what fixes it. It's going to be everybody moving forward on a solution together. So that's where we're going. So does it suck that, for the week before break and the week or two maybe after break that the same thing is going to go on? Yes. But is it going to be better to get everybody moving forward so beyond that we can feel more confident that something is actually happening? I think that's
Right.
where we need to go.
And just to be clear, this is not something that's been happening for 2 years. This is something that's
Of
been
course,
happening for
yeah,
a dozen
absolutely.
or 15
and
years.
if we are perpetually that district that's stuck in the middle. We're not the district that can afford the fancy one-to-one program, and we're not the district that has a high enough free and reduced lunch program to get the assistance that we need. So we're stuck right there in the middle, where we've got all the needs, increasing ESL needs, increasing, we're trapped in the middle. And, our teachers have to figure out how to, work with students who are headed to the Ivy Leagues and students who, haven't taken an AP or a honors class. It's hard. We've got a lot of very difficult issues that are not easily solvable.
I know I don't want to belabor this. I just want to ask, so would it then, this is not necessarily a directive, but a suggestion or idea, how much of this is being communicated to the student body? Like, yes, we acknowledge we have this, we just got this these survey results. We have this huge problem. We are going to address it when we come back from the break. In the meantime, if you are concerned about your grades being impacted by not having access, please, to encourage students to maybe talk to their teachers or teachers, just so they can feel
love that
a little
idea.
bit like,
Great.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, they have a voice and.
Not being ignored.
So something
Yeah.
in the meantime.
Absolutely, to encourage the students to speak up.
So,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I
And the
love
teachers
that.
also on both ends, but yeah.
Yep.
Do you want me to address Heidi's question?
Yep.
Let's not go there right now. Is that you? Can we hold the Wi-Fi concern for now? Like, it's on the table, John, right? John knows, John's the one working on it, so.
But, Zayu, I'm going to recommend that you email me directly.
Okay.
Could you do that?
Yep.
Thank you. Don't forget.
Otherwise, we're going to be here all night. It's already 9 o'clock. And we haven't even gotten to our agenda. Okay?
Agenda will be long.
So, with that, we are going to move on to our committee reports. So first we have, what do we have? Why is my thing? It's really weird. Yeah. Curriculum. Michelle, could you, well, you don't have anything new, so you don't really have anything to even go over.
Nope.
Okay.
There was an item on the agenda that Scott wanted to interject.
Yeah, I just want to,
It was number 4, the resolution about the music theory AP. I'm sorry, music theory 1, not AP.
so I know that there was some concern at the last meeting about running a music theory course in the spring if we only have 4 students in the AP music course. I want to echo Mr. Lassiter's thoughts about this, which I've talked to him at length about this over the last week. The intent on his part is to build up the AP music program, and we want to build up our arts programs however we can. And the thinking is that by running this spring course, just a spring course, no commitment to the fall of next year, we can see if we can create a feeder program into a larger class of AP music students in the fall. And if we don't, in the come fall of 2019, 2020, we either wouldn't run AP music theory or we wouldn't run AP music theory, but just the elective music theory. In other words, just running this course in the spring as a pilot to see if we can generate interest is all we're looking to do. We're not looking to make commitments into 2019, 2020. So I hope the board could support that.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, it's the acknowledgement that this needs to be
Problem.
built up or
we go to a different direction.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about
It's
that?
just music theory. I mean, AP music theory right now is like the only high-level music course or like really arts course actually that is offered in the school like as an AP or honors class. So I don't think scrapping it, even if it's only 4 students are interested this year, we don't know what the numbers may be the next year or the following year. And we also, it's just, I don't think we should take away the opportunity from the students to like pursue like
So this is one of the really difficult things about being a board member is you have to weigh positives and negatives, right? You have to look at what we can and what we can't offer as a small school, as a small district. And sometimes it means we have to sacrifice some things that may benefit a small group of students, but we need to put that money towards somewhere else that's going to benefit a larger group of students. And we don't have to keep moving forward to see what's going to happen. We could look at the data going back the last, say, 5 years, and if we see that pattern over the last 5 years that is continuously less than 10 students, one of our biggest roles as a board is to be fiscally responsible. We have a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers in this town to spend the money, the tax money that we collect wisely. And it gets very hard to make an argument to maintain a class, any class, for 4 students. So we'll have to respectfully disagree there. And while we see that there would absolutely be a benefit to a multitude of classes that we could offer to students, we simply can't offer all of them, especially when they're undersubscribed.
But that's not even what we're doing now. Actually, what we're doing now is trying to go in the opposite direction by offering this class and seeing if we can build up. So.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it for curriculum. If nobody else has any other questions or concerns about curriculum, we'll move on to finance with Mr. Krieger.
Yes, indeed. We have 3 new bill list items, number 2, 3, and 5. I think nothing very special there. We have a new contractor, Handle with Care, to do recertification of the basic program in the winter and spring semesters. We have John Holm doing digital storytelling fall and spring for $7,000. That's item number, the end of item number 7. Sorry about my phone, keeps buzzing. We have approval for ESA for fiscal year 2019 with revised amounts which have gone up. We have acceptance of donation number 12 for the middle school from Home Depot of 2 Samsung washers and dryers with total value of just over $5,000. And then we have the...
I'm sorry, Mark.
Yes.
When something like that comes in, what do we do in response to thank that organization? Like, that's a massive donation.
Well,
That's
before
really
you
cool.
answer, I'll say that we are going to have a ceremony at the school.
Okay.
And all
You
of our
are.
board members.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
please do.
Yeah.
Well, we send a thank you letter to the donor.
Awesome. I'd love to, can you get that to me for me to sign too?
We'll probably invite the press, make it a nice big deal for them and for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to. That's a pretty big donation. That's pretty amazing. So what software company or hardware company do we talk to put together a similar event? I'm serious, man. We're finding the money.
I used to be good friends with Steve Jobs, but those days are long gone.
Come on, Mark.
Poor guy.
Too bad Bourbons isn't still around.
Apparently, everybody else on the internet has the same question. I was doing some research. Google grants, Chromebook grants, you know.
You're not.
Wow. Not the first, evidently, or the
Well,
6
we're going to
million.
make a really darn good case as to why it should be us. And I think we have a really good argument. So
I think so too. All right, let's do it.
Actually, on the topic of grants, I found one that was closed right now. Yeah, I just emailed you.
Kajit? Kahoot?
Yeah, Kajit, I think.
Kajit.
Yeah,
Yes.
we've been looking into that, but I'm going to take a
Oh,
look at your
okay.
link. No, but your link might shed more light on it. But yeah, it's on our radar.
thank you for
That's
looking
great.
for that.
Yeah.
All right, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, and I'm sorry I jumped over that so quickly. I was trying to move us along. So there's a donation to the high school from Richard Howard of a robotics kit valued at $1,049.99 by the high school robotics club, and that is new as well, which is great.
So who is that generous gentleman? Do we know?
We don't know. I don't know the name.
Do we know who that is, Linda, or how that came about?
A community member.
Oh, really?
Had a student in District 2 now.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's really nice.
Well, thank you, Mr. Howard. All right, wonderful.
It's finance.
Does anybody have any questions for Mark? No? Okay, seeing none. Oh, what am I doing? Oh, no, we'll go back and vote, sorry. I had
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little, I just got a little discombobulated there for a second. Judy, personnel.
Yeah, okay, we have some changes or additions. 3, we have a request for maternity, a child care leave of absence request for employee 4316. So the leave of absence will be from April 12th, 2019 to June 23rd, and then unpaid leave from September 3rd, 2019 until November 28th. And part of that will be covered by FMLA. Number 4 is a personal. No. Thank you. Number 4 is a leave of absence for an employee, 0228, from January 1st to 2019. We are striking number 9, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Scott to explain about that with the nurse. You wanted to
Oh,
talk
there was a
about that little?
certification concern issue. So we're happy with the candidate, but because of certification problems, we're going to withdraw that resolution, strike it.
So are they resolvable, or it takes that?
I'm
candidate
not
out
sure
of the
yet.
way?
That's not sure yet. So we're going to continue with the using of BIATA nurses, who, by the way, have been working out very well. Just clarify, we use BIATA as a service to provide nursing substitutes. They've been terrific so far, nurturing, caring, good with our kids. But we've also had Miss Leifert from Irving come to straighten up some of the paperwork that need to be tended to. So, Darcy, I thank you for that suggestion. So the things are we're moving full steam ahead, and things are going well.
Thank you, Scott. 10 is the approval of a special ed hire for the middle school. That person is Evan Rogers Farmer. There is a correction in there. The start date should say January 17th, not December. So that would be January
Sidebar.
2019.
Evan is a graduate of Highland Park.
And a really great wrestling coach.
Yes, and he's an assistant wrestling. Yep.
Oh, cool.
There were lots of
good.
hugs
So he
and
already knows a
tears.
bunch of the kids. Oh, that's cool. That's really wonderful.
Let's see, we have a request for a hire of a para at Irving, Andrew Berenger. 12 is also the recommendation to hire a full-time para at Irving Primary, Jessica Watkins. Number 13 is the hire of the family school liaison position we've been talking about at the middle school. Alexa Tori. I know that she's bilingual and familiar with our community. Scott, did you have anything else to add for number 13?
No, I think you said it all. I mean, she is a parent in our community. She has experiences which we think will very much contribute to this position. She currently works for a nonprofit organization, a social services organization. So we had about three, I think we had 3 applicants. She was by far and away Mrs. Osevier's top choice.
Okay, thank you. And then, let's see, three at the end. We have number 26, the approval of a substance abuse profession specialist for the district. And 27 is for some staff development hours, and the same for 28.
So Judy, I should add, number 26 is somebody we hope will fill in some of the gap that has been remaining since we've not had a SAC.
Oh, great.
This is a municipal alliance-funded position, and I have to sincerely thank Elizabeth Asamoah for securing this grant. She was on the forefront of this.
Great. Good news.
Fantastic. Excellent.
That's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Judy. Does anybody have any questions for Judy on any of the personnel items?
Number 27 and 28, could you explain the split and the different rates?
Yeah, we're just having, May Lewis and Eva Capola are our lead trainers for Responsive Classroom, so they're just going to be turnkey training for the after-school academy that we offer. So,
oh, no, I think Rob's referring to the two
The
different
rate?
rates. Why?
Oh.
Why one's 38.6?
That doesn't make sense. Is that a mistake?
Well, let me take a closer look at this.
Yeah. I think that the 1 hour is prep work and the other hour is the delivery of instruction.
Okay.
So you're
then-
paid.
Oh, thanks for the clarification, Linda.
And then for,
Oh, so the prep is the prep hour?
Yeah,
The
that
prep
makes
hour
sense.
is more, and then the other is for the presenting? Okay.
Thank you for that.
on 28, is it 21 total hours, or is it 1 and 1?
Yeah, 20 hours at 38, and then 1 hour at 65 and change.
Okay.
All right.
One more question. On number 13, the liaison for the middle school, can you remind us a little bit again about what that position
Sure, I'll pull up the job
entails?
description, which the board approved a couple of months ago.
So the candidate's experience coming into this position, can you go a little bit more into that?
I'm sorry, Ruth, what's that?
The candidate's experience in relation to this position?
Well, there's some experiences which let's just say that she has experiences similar to those who she'll be with with whom she'll be working. That will make her an ideal candidate to work with the population with whom she'll be working.
Professional experience?
Yep, both professional and personal. And I'd rather leave it at that. But if you'd like, I can continue to talk about the job description itself. Sure. So the individual has to have a minimum of 60 college credits. A college degree is not required. We were thinking folks who were looking for paraprofessional related positions would be applying for these jobs. We had one teacher, and then who was obviously has a college degree, and then two without college degrees apply. This individual will. I'm going to try to paraphrase some of the performance responsibilities. Work collaboratively with school personnel to provide information that they can then take back to families who might be struggling to communicate with teachers about such things as homework, assignments that are happening in class. This individual will refer families to other agencies of which they might not be aware. This person does work for one of the agencies that she might want to place a family with. We'll conduct home visits to support interventions that have been identified by the INRS team. We'll also facilitate coordination of parent involvement programs that we run to try to encourage more parents to come, especially from the population that's being served, to come to our evening workshops. We'll work in collaboration with the principal to collect, document, review, analyze data that relates to family involvement in school events, so the individuals can help build our evening events, which are not always well attended by parents, and then anything else that the principal wants to assign the individual for this purpose. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, if there's nothing else to Judy, then we will move on to policy with Anne.
Okay, thank you. We are, excuse me. We're moving 4 policies for second reading. What that means is we're moving to adopt them. Rob Broslevich, I dropped the ball. You sent me an email about policy under D, administration of medical marijuana. All the other A through C are exactly the same as we've seen them several other times. Paragraph D, administration of medical marijuana, Rob correctly points out that the statute prohibits the administration of medical marijuana by smoking or in other inhaled form. I don't feel strongly about adding it to the policy, but I'm happy to do so. Does the board have a...
Yeah, I was just wondering, do we already have a, I know it's state law that already prohibits smoking on school grounds, so I was just wondering if it was like redundant to put it in there, in which case then we could just pass it as it is. But I don't know.
It's probably redundant, but I can't imagine this is going to come up, that a parent or guardian is going to try to administer medical marijuana by inhalation to a student. I don't even know how that would happen, holding the cigarette to their lips. If we wanted to avoid any confusion, I'd be happy to put a line in there and I could read that line out. Does anybody have a feeling about that one way or the other?
I don't.
Anybody care?
I think it's probably fine as is.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch it.
That's my feeling too, but I did,
Yeah,
in the last 30 seconds, add a little amendment if you...
No, I think it's probably fine as it is, because I think it's already prohibited in some other way, shape, or form.
I think that's probably true. All right,
And
thank you though, Rob.
unlikely.
Thank you. You were correct about the statute.
All right, so are there any other questions about any of the policies? Nope. Okay, Monique, you don't have anything on the agenda for equity and excellence, but anything you want?
No updates for tonight. We're meeting in the new year.
Alrighty. Yeah, all the 2019s on the agenda were making me feel a little bit discombobulated, I have to say. All right, so that brings us to the first public comment, but there is no public, so we don't have to worry about that. So we will go right to our board action items. Michelle, could you move the curriculum and instruction items, please?
Sure. I would like to move items 1 through, oh gosh, no, just 4. 1 through 4.
3.
Oh, sorry, that was last week's copy.
1 through 3.
1 through 3. I had one job.
Alrighty. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? No. Seeing none, Linda, could we please have a roll call?
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Ms. Simarasti?
Yes?
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden Nicola?
Yes.
Ms. Pietrobono?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Okay, Mark, could you move the finance and facilities items, please?
Yeah, I'll move items 1 through 13.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I did have one just super quick question. I think it's $7,000 for John Hume to run his program. Does that
That's
come out of general funds? Or
Title
does that
I.
come out? That's Title I, I thought so, okay. And that was already earmarked in this year's
Correct.
budget for that, okay, so
It's the
that's
same
not-
amount we funded last year, too.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure it wasn't some new thing that we were adding on.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there a second? Oh, we already did that, sorry. Linda, could we please have a roll call?
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Ms. Simorowski?
Yes?
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola?
Yes.
Ms. Pietrobono?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Okay, Judy, could you please move the personnel items?
Yes, I'd like to move items 1 through 8. We're striking 9, moving 10 with the correction, and moving items 11 through 28.
Okay. Oops. Are we good?
Yeah, so, I just wouldn't say it then? Oh. Okay. Oh, hold on one second, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Number 7, we are also not moving on.
We're striking 7?
That was strike, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think
It's
I had to
7.
mention that because it was crossed out, but apparently.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right, so it's 1 through 6, 8,
yeah.
and then 10 through 20.
Well, no, 9's, yeah.
Oh, 9.
Yeah, 1
Yeah.
through 6, striking 7, number 8.
Right. Striking 9. Right, and then 10.
with the correction, and then 11 through 28.
Gotcha.
Second.
All right, any discussion? No. All right, seeing none. Linda, could we please have a roll call?
Ms. Byer?
Yes on everything except for 13.
And what is your vote on 13?
No.
Ms. Simorowski?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes on everything except 13.
And what is your vote on 13?
No.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Abstain.
On the whole report?
Oh, I'm sorry. Everything is a yes except 13 is abstain.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola?
Yes.
Ms. Pietrobono?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Okay. Anne, could you please move the policy items?
Yes, I'd like to move policy item number 1, encompassing sub-items A through D.
Okay. What, Mark, you're not going to jump in with a second? I thought you were moving things along. Now you made them longer.
I'm trying.
Any discussion? Nope. Seeing none. Linda, could we please have a roll call?
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Ms. Simorowski?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola?
Yes.
Ms. Pietrobono?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Okay, so that brings us to our board liaison reports. I'm assuming that this time of year they're not going to be terribly juicy, so we'll run through them somewhat quickly. Was there-
Wendy wrote an extremely comprehensive and detailed report. Give it a look. I give her a big shout out.
Nice. All right, so that's on the drive?
Yep, it's on the drive.
All right, wonderful. Michelle, do you have anything from the Public Information or HPTV?
Unfortunately, I have nothing.
Okay. Rob, anything from the Ed Foundation?
The Ed Foundation met in November and actually is meeting again tomorrow night.
They are busy this time of year.
They are. Well, you know, it's the planning of fundraising time and consideration of new opportunities. Last month, Christina Nicosia made a presentation, talked about technology needs, some of which we've talked about tonight, and some of which are things that she was suggesting as potential ideas for the foundation to support. So that was really fascinating, well done, and well received.
Excellent. All right. Judy, anything from Universal Access?
They are meeting tonight. And unfortunately, they did not send their minutes via email like they usually do. They're handing them out at tonight's meeting. So I do not have the minutes from last month, which also met at a conflicting night. So I have nothing.
Bummer. All right.
Not for lack of trying.
Is there also something from Rebecca?
Yep, there's
I
a
remember seeing
report from
something
Rebecca,
her.
and I'll be attending the January 28th meeting
Okay.
as a visitor guest.
Great. So I don't have anything. That Shared Services Committee had one meeting like a year and a half ago, and then that seemed to have fizzled. But Scott and I kind of have our own meetings with Mayor Gail Brill Mittler and the council's rep to the schools, Councilwoman Susie Wolkowitz. We haven't had a meeting in a while, so we really need to try to put something on the calendar for January if there isn't something already.
We do have a meeting scheduled for January 16th. I'll remind everybody.
Fabulous. Ruth, still bad news from CPAC. That's a bummer. I hope someone puts together the energy to resurrect that. I know it's not easy. Monique, anything from PostDoc?
They were going to meet this week and decided to wait until after the holidays, so they'll be meeting in January.
Okay. And Human Relations.
Okay, yep, we met last week, I think it was. Is that right? We met recently, the third Wednesday of every month. I think we just met. There's nothing particular to the schools. There was a lot of discussion of the new commission that the borough is creating. Monique, you might know more about that. Has that new commission been voted into existence yet? Or is it still?
I believe that it was it was up for resolution at the last council meeting, and I think it was approved.
Okay.
But I will know more tomorrow.
Yes, there is a council meeting tomorrow night. I don't know what the agenda is on the meeting, but I do know from our Human Relations Commission meeting that there are folks planning to come to the meeting tomorrow night to discuss issues pertinent to the new commission. I think the commission was initially named Bias Free HP, but that name actually belongs to an activist group, a community group. So I think a new name will be assigned. Anyway, the commission is going to deal explicitly with issues of racial bias in Highland Park. I don't know if the commission will always be dedicated solely to policing, or if it'll have a broader racial equity purpose. So if anybody's interested in coming out to the town council meeting tomorrow night, I can't really invite you because I'm not on the town council, but it seems like it would be a good idea for people to come out if they're interested in this issue. I know one thing that we talked about at Human Relations was the need. Our police chief is retiring soon, so the borough will be hiring a new police chief. And I know people on the Human Relations Commission were interested in sort of providing their thoughts to the town about what kind of police chief we wanted, what sort of values we want the new police chief to bring with him or her. So I believe people will be speaking about that at Borough Council tonight too. So if people in the school community are interested in that issue, tomorrow night might be a good night to turn up. And that's all I got.
A few students are going to come to the event too.
That's wonderful.
Excellent.
Monique, I didn't mean to speak for you because I believe you're on the commission, or you may be on the commission. Or
No, I actually am not on the
Not
commission.
on the commission.
I cannot join another commission or
Okay.
body. But I do fully support the goals of the commission if they stand the way that we think they will be.
Sure.
So, yeah, fully in support.
Did I state things mostly correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
And wasn't there some exciting news from Ashton?
Oh, yes, Ashton was elected or appointed. I think appointed to be, is it president or chair of the State Human Relations Commission, which is very exciting. Yeah. So go Highland
Mr.
Park
Burrell.
and go Ashton.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's very cool.
It's wonderful.
Okay, thank you so much. Mark, anything from Board of Health?
We met on December 6th, but there was nothing of new interest regarding the schools.
Okay. Wasn't Scott coming to a meeting, or was that?
No, there was
just
some
that-
discussion of Mike Lassiter coming, but that was...
Yeah, I think we
that was-
mixed it.
Fizzled,
didn't happen.
Okay.
I'm off
It
the
wasn't
hook.
needed.
The
to-
momentum has gone out of the start time
for
debate
the-
again?
For the moment.
Okay. Okay, Rob, anything exciting from the green team?
Nothing new to report tonight.
Nothing? Okay. I have nothing from school board, delegate for New Jersey school boards. Well, that's kind of written wrong. Well, anyway, to the delegate assembly. Oh, no, it's not. Delegate to New Jersey school board. Sorry, I'm a little discombobulated tonight. I just checked, and there isn't any information for the next delegate assembly, which is typically in May. So as soon as I know when the deadline is for submitting resolutions, I'll let everyone know. And if we have any brilliant ideas for resolutions, maybe we can put something forward. They love it when Highland Park comes with resolutions. They're just so happy. Rob, anything exciting going on with Middlesex County School Boards Association?
No, there was a meeting a week and a half ago, and last minute I was unable to attend.
Yeah, I was too. And it was about budgeting, and I felt like, Mark, we could probably go and give the presentation about budgeting. So
yeah, pretty close to it, especially the way they were taking it, because it was more so about the interaction between the board and the unions, and so that kind of interaction, rather than the larger budgetary issues. So.
Well, but I think a lot of districts do it really dysfunctionally, and probably don't get the proper input, and so. But I think we're in pretty good shape on that. So. Okay, so that is, how am I going to do this? Sit here and right here. Okay. So for my president's report, I think I'm going to take this off of here. Let Scott take my mic off the stand.
She's got to walk around.
It feels a little weird. It feels like I should be like some kind of crooner or something.
Just don't start singing.
Yeah, don't feel like standing up. Don't worry, I will not start singing. There is no worries about that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about something we've certainly discussed over the last couple of years, since the district has really tried to put this focus on equity and excellence. And it's an organization called Schools of Opportunity. It came back on my radar just in the last couple of weeks because they just announced their schools for 2017. I think this is the third or fourth year that they've named schools across the country schools of opportunity. And the work that they do really dovetails amazingly with the work that we're trying to do. And as we've talked about different pieces of the equity work that the board and the district is working on, I feel sometimes we run into, these little pockets of resistance of, that we're going off in some weird direction, or we're experimenting on kids, or we're doing things that don't have any, structure or base of research. And I wanted to just take a little bit of time tonight and kind of dispel a little bit of that. Not only are these initiatives that we're undertaking not, things that we've pulled out of a hat somewhere, they're actually part of a larger picture that's being implemented in schools around the country. And a lot of these initiatives are being researched by universities and professors around the country. We're not looking to experiment on anyone's kids. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time tonight talking about the Schools of Opportunity and what it is. So the Schools of Opportunity is a project of the National Education Policy Center, which I believe is out of the University of Colorado. And one of the folks there who does this work is also someone who works very closely with my executive director of the Network for Public Education, Carol Burris, because as we've talked about a few times before, she's done this work herself when she was a principal of a high school in New York. So she's actually part of the Schools of Opportunity project as well. So the idea behind the project is very often schools that get recognized as quote unquote good schools are schools where they just happen to have this socioeconomic, homogeneity of all kids who have a lot of opportunities at home. And not for nothing, but that makes it a lot easier to get a whole group of really stellar students that get really high scores on all kinds of metrics. So they put this project together not only to recognize schools that have to do things a little bit differently and maybe have to work a little bit harder to get those outcomes, but to recognize the work that they're doing, but also to provide that framework of how that work can be done. So let's see. And this is what really caught my eye the other day, is they put out a video about the work, why you do the work, and just get your tissues. That's all I'm going to say. And hopefully the sound is not going to be horrible. Oh no. Hopefully the sound's going to work.
Education.
So fancy. There we go. All right, here we go. Now we have sound.
You shouldn't need rich parents to get an education in this country.
Without CISA High, I don't think I would be the person I would be today. I usually average like a 3.0 or above. The sophomore year when I started getting suspended, it went down to a 2.2. And once they started talking about colleges and transcripts, I looked at it and I couldn't really go nowhere.
Students like Deshaun, they come in, home life isn't the ideal home life that a lot of educators, a lot of adults think of.
Mom had strokes. She had 4 strokes. I can't stop strokes, so it's like, what can I do? And all she was always talking about was just graduate.
The Schools of Opportunity Project is particularly targeting the opportunity gap, not the achievement gap. We recognize Seaside High School as a Gold School of Opportunity this year because they were exemplary in 3 different practices: culturally relevant curriculum, classes and courses that engage kids in learning, and a rigorous, well-rounded curriculum for all of their students. When you see the kids playing with robots, it's not just one sector or one section of the group of students, it's all of them.
Miss Brown, I'm really glad that she's my teacher, and I'm about to cry right now. Yeah, she's always been there for me no matter what.
When students come to us, the most important thing we need to do is connect with them.
Mr. Moran, he always said I'd be a role model, a leader. Hearing that a lot, knowing that I had the potential to do that, made me turn around.
Really proud of Deshaun because with the supports we had here, he's able to turn things around, and now he's a leader on our campus.
That'll give me opportunities to get my work done and help me out with my tests, because that's what I was really struggling on.
We have a responsibility to try and ensure that all kids have a shot. These schools give me hope that even in challenging economic situations, there are people fighting and trying to do right by kids.
So I've watched it a few times, so I'm ahead of you guys. I can watch it without getting all the... Thank you. You tabbed me back to where we were, because I don't know how to work your computer. There we go. So I think that really nicely encapsulates what we're trying to do. And he said it so plainly. When I started getting suspended, that was it. Like, you disconnected me from the school. And it took his teachers and people to bring him back in and to give him the supports that he needed, and to be told that he could be a leader, and to be told that he could go to college or he could go on to something else, because he wasn't seeing it for himself. That's what we're all here for, you know? I know that's why we're all sitting at this table 2 nights a week and going to committee meetings and doing all the other work we're doing. So this is the framework through which the Schools of Opportunity Project evaluates schools. And again, I wanted to share this tonight. I don't want to go into it, you know, completely in depth because, you know, we've all been here for a long time, but we'll put this up on the website. Anybody at home or board members can take a look at it. There's links in the presentation to Schools of Opportunity, to the video, to whatever, so people can explore that on their own. But I wanted people to see that within this framework that they're using to evaluate schools, you'll find just about everything that we're doing. You'll find just about everything that came up in our strategic plan before anybody had any idea of what Schools of Opportunity was or what those pieces are in a successful school that has a diverse population like ours. Our community knew it, I think, kind of intrinsically. These are the areas that we gravitated towards, and they're all in this framework. If you look through any of these areas, if you go onto the Schools of Opportunity website, they break down each of these 10 categories, and there's actually a rubric for each of those categories where you can be rated as exemplary, or I don't remember what the exact 4 categories are, but you know, we all like a nice solid rubric, but it tells you what you need to be doing to be recognized as a school of opportunity. So you can be recognized either as a gold school or a silver school. And I'm not saying, that this needs to be something we need to accomplish next year or 2 years from now or 3 years from now. I think it would certainly be a target to head towards and a framework that we could use to help us get there, especially as next year, I think as early as next year, we're going to need to revisit our strategic plan. And as we revise those goals, we can really look at where our strategic plan goals already overlap with the Schools of Opportunity framework, and then kind of hone in on those that we would need to hone in on. And I mean, I think this would be a pretty stellar thing to accomplish within the next few years. So I went and I looked at some of the criterion. These are on both Criterion 1 and Criterion 2, which are the two that you have to accomplish to even be considered, and just highlighted a couple of the things that show, these are the things that we're already trying to do. Evidence is submitted, in submitted documents shows that the school has little or no formal or informal tracking or ability grouping, with zero tracking in some academic areas. The school has eliminated low track classes. The school allows any student who wants to take honors, IB, and AP courses to do so and provide supports as needed. So I feel like sometimes we mention these things and it sounds like this revolutionary, insane, what do you mean there'd be no barriers? What do you mean you wouldn't need teacher recommendations? No, schools do this. It does happen, it does work, it does help get kids to places that they wouldn't ordinarily go if you put those barriers in front of them. Something else for Criterion 1, evidence shows that a substantial amount of innovation, project-based learning in a range of subjects grounded in the interest, knowledge, and experiences of students. This is something you've been working on since you came here, bringing more project-based learning into all levels of, into all 4 levels of our schools. And then a couple more examples from Criterion 2. Clear policy systems and practices for reporting, investigating, and addressing such instances. So this is talking about bullying. Instances are in place and equally enacted. Such policies and practices attend to student social emotional well-being and to improving systems to prevent future incidents. So over the last, year and a half, we've really worked to refine and work on our bullying practices and to try to get this into a more structured, into a better place. Whoop! What happened? Oh, was that the last one? I thought I missed one. Did I miss one? Anyway, so that gives you an idea of what the Schools of Opportunity project is, how it aligns with the work that we're already trying to do, and how hopefully this will give us a framework for moving forward. Now I'll put my thing back.
I really appreciate you making this presentation, and I'm all in. I think it's fantastic, and I think we should definitely be looking at it when we hit the next version of the strategic plan. A whole series of goals is, like you said, aligned to this. Why not align it even more closely?
Right. That's exciting. Thank you.
Does anybody have any thoughts or questions? Or
I guess my thought is I'm excited about it, and I think we should incorporate it into our Equity and Excellence meeting too, to look at, how, of course, this is clearly the work that we're intending to do. So really just figuring out how to position ourselves and what we need to do as a committee to see that through and
and
find
again,
the loopholes and
and like we were talking about earlier, in terms of the technology and trying to make that more equitable, we have to broaden it from the board table, even from our committee meetings, over the next couple of years, having these conversations as we're in the community. So I think it's crucial in the next year, and we've talked about this. Bye, guys. Good night.
Bye, students.
Holding some kind of forum. We have access to people who have done this in their schools. Parents and teachers and community members who have concerns about this have to see that we're not just a bunch of loons who are proposing something that has no basis in research and that hasn't been shown to be effective in other places. We're not looking to go down some untraveled, uncharted path. So I want to bring some of these folks here who can talk about how they've done it and what the outcomes have been, what they've seen, what they've experienced, not just for individual students, but for their schools as a whole. And I'll take it one step further and try not to get too in the weeds, but it very much, to me, dovetails with what Ann was just talking about in terms of what they were talking about, the Human Relations Committee, with the borough and the hiring of a new chief And this kind of change of focus and change of direction that the district is trying to take, I think we need to help and encourage the borough to take that same turn. And it's a really hard turn to take, because it does, I mean, even in showing the video, it gets a little anxiety provoking, because they talk about, you know, part of the problem, you know, for changing cultures and to create these schools of opportunities is not only access, but it's racism. And that's this like scary word to confront. And you know, when I was first on the board and I would start to talk about wanting to look at the discipline data in a different way, people said I was trying to call them racists, which I thought was really strange, because that's not what I was trying to do. I was just trying to look at data. Like, let's just look at who we're suspending. Let's just look at if we're suspending the same kids at the same rates. Are we suspending them the same way for the same offenses? Are we, and now we look at that. Now we're just looking at that as a board automatically. Like, you know, that's just part of what we do on a monthly basis, which is fantastic, because now we can actually see what it is we're looking at. So, and when we talk about racism, it's not just pointing at someone and calling them a racist, it's how structures are put in place and perpetuated, and we just don't even think about them anymore. That's just the way things are. But why are they that way? And could they be a different way? And would it be okay if it was a different way? So, you know, I certainly want to have conversations, and I'm glad it came up in Human Relations that there's a, you know, going to be a new chief and a hiring process. There was a meeting last week of the bias-free HP group, and Councilman Fine actually came to that, and he put that out into the room that there was going to be a new chief and hiring, and that there should be community involvement there. And I applauded him for putting that on the table, because I think that's really important. And what I said at that meeting is, you know, I think this is equivalent to the school board's responsibility in hiring a superintendent. That person is going to guide the next, I mean, superintendents tend not to stay around as long as chiefs, like, other than when, you know, you have someone like Dr. Taylor who lives in the community. But, you know, a chief can be there 10, 15, 20, I mean, they can be there a long time. So, you know, this position is going to be really important. I mean, this is just as important, if not more important, than the district hiring a superintendent. And that, that session I went to at workshop, where I heard from that, that police chief in Gloucester Township, it really allowed me to see that there's a different way. There are police stations that work differently. There are police chiefs that approach this work in a different way. And it was just such an eye-opener to me that the prosecutor that sat in that meeting was an assistant prosecutor in Middlesex County. He's the guy that our kids go to. He's the guy who handles the juvenile cases. And he sat there and said, I don't want to see your kids. You guys, this is something you should be able to do. And he gave them kind of, you know, maybe not so, you know, couth example, but he's like, you know, if you can come up with programs for, you know, kids who are blind and kids who are deaf, you should be able to come up with programs for kids who have these kinds of problems. And he's not wrong, you know? I mean, that's part of our responsibility, is to create programs for all kinds of kids. And one of the kinds of kids we're going to have to deal with are kids that have behavior challenges. And as they get older, those behaviors get more disruptive and more difficult. And the answer is not sending them out of school or sending them to the police station. Those aren't the answers. Those are not the answers that school districts should come up with.
We're separating them.
Or separating.
Or separating them.
Right, exactly.
Creating
Well,
programs, but not separate entities.
Right.
Programs that are.
And one of the areas on the Schools of Opportunity is about special education and access. So, I mean, those are all going to be important pieces for us to keep pushing on. So, thank you for indulging me in that. And if anybody has any questions about it moving forward, feel free to let me know.
I wanted to talk about the part that is culturally competent. I guess they called it culturally relevant curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, in a lot of ways, I find that, like, having high schoolers, I'm seeing things that are very much not culturally relevant to my kids. And I don't think that my kids are, you know, an anomaly. I feel like a lot of what they're doing is like questioning, why do we have to learn this? And, you know, I feel like that's a big piece of what they were talking about there with the culturally relevant curriculum. So, you know, if I hear that in my own home, I feel like that's got to be a part of everyone's conversations. And, you know, me and my husband are college educated with advanced degrees, so if my kids are feeling it, I'm sure a lot of kids are feeling it. And there was a really good presentation at workshop, the music curriculum that Steve Van Zandt had put forward, and I thought that that was a really good example of like a culturally relevant way to introduce lots of different topics.
Who knew we'd be looking to Steve Van Zandt for curriculum?
Right? Never judge a book by its cover.
What a world.
Never judge a book by its cover. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about that part, and I want to learn more about that, and I hope that we can also put that on our committee agenda.
Awesome. Okay. Anybody else have any other thoughts? Okay, so we will move on to old business. The board calendar, did you get a response?
Yeah, there was, everything seems to check out. Ruth, I just wanted to be sure that this the second night of Sukkot wouldn't be a problem, as far as you know. Second night, because there is one board meeting.
Well, I just won't be able to come.
On Sukkot.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the religious part of the holiday. But
And otherwise, there was a meeting that comes right after Shavuot, but it's the day after.
so that's also 2 days.
Right, Erev,
Okay.
and then the second day is a Sunday, and then the next day is our Monday
Okay,
night board meeting. So I think we're clear. It's just the Sukkot. That's a rough period of time, so I don't know when we would get a meeting in otherwise.
We could do it in the, I'm sorry, in the sukkah.
We could just, that's right. But otherwise, we're good. So if you're ready to approve it, I think we have to have a motion, no?
Yep. So we're not worried about the date in Sukkot? Okay.
As long as you won't miss me too much, it's all right.
Alrighty. Okay, so do we just make a motion to adopt the annual board calendar for 2019? Yep. Can I get a second?
Second.
Nope. Any discussion? Who did what?
Who made the first motion?
Ruth and I.
No,
Michelle
I
and I.
seconded.
Did anybody move?
Michelle.
I don't know what just happened.
Just moving things willy-nilly.
Yeah.
All right, you got people? Okay. Okay, Linda, can we have a roll call?
Yes. Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Ms. Simoresti?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola?
Yes.
Ms. Pietrobono?
Yes.
Mr. Rislevich?
Yes.
Okay, anybody have anything for new business? No? No. All right, we have no public, so can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Michelle with the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
And Gowan with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.